This is our first time down here, and this is actually my second interview down here, and it happens to be with some real cool artists call themselves Earthgang.
Before Earthgang would sign to Dreamville Records, before Twitter would compare Earthgang to Outkast, which led to an actual co-sign of the group from Big Boy himself.
I fuck with a lot of them though, you know what I'm saying? J.Cole's and the Kendricks. I even like the Earthgang. Like, I mean, I listen to everything.
Before they would have stand-up performances on Dreamville's Revenge of the Dreamers 3 album. Before Johnny Venus and Doctur Dot would drop their Dreamville debut album Mirrorland with features from Young Thug, T-Pain, Kehlani, and more. Before Earthgang would have over 100k followers on Twitter and close to 400k followers on Instagram at the time of this recording. In a world full of industry plants, Earthgang has had an organic rise from seeds that were planted years ago. Johnny Venus and Doctur Dot formed Earthgang in high school, but it wasn't until recently that their music would make it into the ears of the mainstream. Earthgang is an example of working hard and working consistently over the course of a decade, because over the past 10 years, the duo has dropped 3 albums, 4 EPs, 3 mixtapes, 4 compilation projects, countless singles, and I'm sure I'm missing a few things in there. But before they signed to J.Cole's Dreamville Records, the two were just a couple kids attending open mic nights and paying $35 a night to perform. But we'll walk you through their entire story in this video. What's going on, good people in the comment section? I hope you're having one heck of a day. My name is Jeremy Hecht, and I'll be your host today, helping out Michael with weekly content. If you don't know, and if you know, then shout out to my toilet gang. Welcome back. And today we'll be walking you through Earthgang prior to fame, here for you, of course, on Before They Were Famous. We've covered other artists for this channel like J.I.D and Black, so be sure to check those out later. But before we start, I've got a trivia question for you. What is the first tour Earthgang went on that they were actually paid for? All right, let's get into the show. Johnny Venus was born Olu Ofan on October 9th, 1989, and Doctur Dot was born Ian Andre Parker on October 25th, 1990. The two grew up on the south side of Atlanta, which is home to also Outkast and Future, but Dot always had a problem following the pack and always wanted to be his own individual.
There's nobody verse I love enough to try to bite that shit. Nobody sound I love enough more than my own. I guess we love ourselves too much. Narcissism, man, and it's fine.
In 2008, Johnny and Dot formed what would later become a legendary rap group. While the two were both attending high school, they first connected on a school field trip in the 9th grade at Mays High School in Southwest Atlanta. The two formed an instant bond after joking around and talking all day. Apparently, the school was even set on fire during that day, and the two took it as a sign that something special was going on there.
But it wasn't like the fire was like, we looked into the eyes of the blaze and it came out Earthgang, you know what I'm saying? It was like,
okay, so maybe it wasn't as magical as it sounded, but over the course of the next few years, the two would hang out, share music, and become really good friends. At first, Dot didn't even know Johnny was also creating music, but once they found out about their mutual passion, everything changed.
Half the who we went to high school with they either didn't know we made music or they gave zero that we made music, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like, yo, those guys, what the f y'all doing?
No,
you know?
I don't feel
One night, the two even snuck into a school to play instruments in the music room, and it didn't take long before they started to throw around the idea of starting a rap group together. At first, there was actually other people in the group too.
Bunch of artists in Atlanta on the west side. We was working with this artist named Mercy. I went to middle school with him. We was working with this artist named Antonio. He went to high school with us, and we know him from the neighborhood. We was just working with a lot of artists.
They were trying to get beats from local Atlanta producers, but no one wanted to work with them. So they ended up sneaking into an Atlanta Guitar Center and stealing Reason so that they could produce their own beats. The two were camp counselors at a camp called Camp Best Friends, which sounds like a name that you would make up for a camp if you were creating a fake one, but it's real.
Shout out to all the Atlanta kids that went to Camp Best Friends.
And they had a lot of other jobs before music.
I used to work at the park. I used to clean the rat traps at the park. I used to, I used to work at a call center for a little while, but I used to be in that high as a fuck. They had to let me go.
After work, they would head straight to a local open mic night to practice their skills. They even had to pay $35 to perform, and they would pass out mixtapes after the show. In terms of their other rap names, well,
Grand Wizard, the Dreamy Bohemian, the Loopy Nubian,
Son, Crazy Bruh,
Lord Huxtable the First.
Lonnie.
It's not what you call me, it's the way you say it.
that's a lot of names. And while in Atlanta, there was a lot of successful artists to look up to while they were growing up, They were actually influenced by a range of people from painters to poets to comedians. They've stated the Ohio Players, Lauryn Hill, T-Pain, Basquiat, Jay-Z, Wu-Tang, Nat Turner, Prince, The Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Richard Pryor, Madonna, and more on so many different occasions when listing off their inspirations. On their name, Johnny told Vibe magazine, it encompasses the connectivity and relativeness of life. Everything is related, everything is intertwined. It's kind of like when people say they're cool with God, but it's like, you can be right with God, but if you're not right with the people around you, then it's still a disconnect. So it's acknowledging the symbiosis of life. I definitely want to sit down and talk to these guys because they seem very spiritually aware and self-aware. So one day we'll do the interview. The two both attended Hampton University in Virginia together on scholarships. The craziest part is that the two didn't even know they were both applying to Hampton. It was at Hampton that they met fellow ATL native J.I.D. Earthgang needed a place to record their music at and found out a guy named Pat had a dorm room studio. Pat played them one of J.I.D's songs that he was recording there, and Earthgang recorded some verses over the same beat. So when J.I.D came back, he listened to the song and was like, wait, who are these guys who recorded verses on my song? But once he realized how dope it sounded, they connected in person, and Dot also realized that he was actually in a class with J.I.D, but they were sitting at separate sides of the room. But by the end of the semester, of course, the two were sitting next to each other and cracking jokes during classes.
So ever since we just was boys, my dogs.
Along with J.I.D and a bunch of other creatives, they formed the creative collective called Spillage Village. The group of friends all loved to experiment with sounds, instrumentation, and wanted to try to push each other to make the best music possible. They told Consequence of Sound, that's where we just started seriously pursuing the craft and putting things in our lives into the music, getting high, getting by, whatever, all that stuff. Earthgang began recording in studios all over Atlanta. Well, by studios, I mean dorm rooms at Hampton University, crowded Atlanta closets, and occasionally in Hampton University's music studio, but they were able to finish a full-length project. The two mixed and mastered their own vocals along with the help of Jack Swain, and they released their first project on January 26, 2010. The mixtape was called The Better Party. Later that year, they began to do performances around the US, including the A3C Festival in Atlanta. Over the course of the year, they also released some Lucy's. In 2011, the group released a few music videos and released two separate albums, Madman and Good News. In 2013, they got a beat from 808 Mafia for their single Machete, and they dropped their self-titled release later that year. But it was their song UFO released later that year that began to make some waves, as the 9-minute long song lives up to its name with an outer worldly sound. They also dropped their Shallow Graves for Toys album under their Spillage Village imprint, and the album reached number 11 on Billboard's Emerging Artist charts. Noisy said of the album, an engaging, clever rap duo, one of the most well thought out releases of the year. Earthgang followed that up with Strays with Rabies and kept putting out music and let loose album after single, after video, after compilation project, hoping that their talent would be able to reach the masses. But their biggest opportunity would come as the opening act on a tour. While in LA opening for Audio Push, Punch from TDE saw their performance, and after Atlanta legend Coach K put in a good word for the duo, Punch asked them if they wanted to open for one of his TDE artists on tour. In 2014, Earthgang was one of two opening acts for Ab-Soul's These Days tour. They performed alongside Dreamville artist Boss. But this may come as a surprise to some of the up-and-coming artists out there watching. Opportunity doesn't always come with a paycheck. Earthgang wasn't paid at all for their opening slot, and they even had to borrow money from people in order to throw the show. It was 50 dates and 2 months straight of not getting paid. That is a long time to make no money. But, like I said, there was an opportunity attached to it.
Touring with Ab-Soul was like one of the greatest learning experiences of my life. I learned a lot about music and a lot about presenting yourself as an artist.
And it all paid off because there was a special member in the audience during the New York show on that tour, and his name was J.Cole. The group didn't even know Cole was in attendance, but I guess that's why you have to perform every show like it's your last. Cole was so impressed with their act that he asked to meet them backstage after the show. Cole had come across some of their music online before, but this was his first time seeing them perform live, and he left an open invitation to them to come to his North Carolina abode and record some music if they wanted. And you know Cole only works with true lyricists, so anytime you get that invite, it's a stamp of approval from Carolina's finest. So the group obviously accepted that offer. They drove from Atlanta to North Carolina, where they got to know Cole on a personal one-to-one or one-to-two basis, I guess, and they also made some music.
Yeah, I mean, he came down to our house in Atlanta a couple times, just on some like pulling up, like we stayed in the hood, like pull up.
They went back on the road in 2015 as an opener for Mac Miller on his Good AM tour. It's crazy how far Mac's influence reaches in hip hop, even today. And Mac was always the type of guy to reach out to people and bring them on the road or bring them on a song or bring them into the studio and connect people from all different types of music, from SoundCloud rappers to, you know, lyricists to jazz musicians. He kind of was that connector for everybody. So anyways, I'm miss you, man. I miss you. In the summer of 2016, the duo would join Dreamville artist Baz on his Too High to Riot tour. Also, I feel like we need to do it before they're famous on Baz, so let me know in the comments if you guys want that. After seeing them perform live so many times and hearing so much of their music, J.Cole believed in the duo, and on August 31st, 2017, Earthgang signed with J.Cole's Dreamville Records. The duo headed out on tour and continued to build their fan base on a large scale. They were out with J.I.D, they went on tour with Cole a couple of times, and they began to build up their fan base from all the shows and the music that they were releasing. But after years of grinding, 2019 finally became the year that Earthgang would blow up. They released the song Proud of You with Young Thug and featured on 5 separate songs for the label's Revenge of the Dreamers 3 project. The album proved to be an introduction to an entire group of new fans for the group from Atlanta. And on individuality, Dot has this to say. He says, "I think it's important for life. We are all born on this earth alone and we're all going to die alone, so it's important for you to be able to express yourself completely and thoroughly through anything that you do, whether it be rap, whether it being the most unique, influencing CEO possible, a writer or a mailman, you ought to be able to do it to the fullest of your ability and as a complete expression. I think that's important in music specifically because it's one of the greatest forms of expression throughout the world." So to a group that has individuality at their core, I think lazy fans need to stop comparing them to Outkast. I get it, Atlanta, they're different, the way they dress, the way they sound, a little bit. But let them grow, let them be individuals, there's room for everybody, and not everything has to be the next something. They can also be the original of themselves. But anyways, in terms of their first tour that they actually got paid for, it was them opening up for Mac Miller. That was the first time they got paid for a tour, but don't get it twisted, apparently they just broke even with all the costs that it takes of going on tour. They didn't really make much money. But as for the rest of the video, that is all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have one heck of a day. Dream good, live better. And if nobody's told you yet today, I love you. Let us know who to do next. Follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. I'm out.